This lecture is on the male reproductive system. So, the male gonads are the testes. And the testes make sperm cells, and they make testosterone, which is a hormone that I will discuss when we're discussing the endocrine system. And the two testes hang outside the body. In a sac of skin called the scrotum. So, the scrotum being outside the body the way it is then, the scrotum keeps the testes at a lower temperature than the rest of the body. And this is necessary for human sperm production. So to have live, viable sperm, if you are a human male, the testes have to hang outside the body and be kept at a slightly lower temperature than normal human body temperature. Now, that's the way it is for humans. It is not the way it is for all warm-blooded creatures. It just happened in our evolutionary line, basically. But there are other warm-blooded animals like rhinoceroses and elephants and all marine mammals, so whales and dolphins and things like that, and a few peculiar other ones as well, and all birds. All birds and elephants and rhinoceroses and marine mammals all have internal testes, and they have a warm body temperature. And in fact, birds have a higher body temperature than ours. So in fact, it is not correct to say that warm body temperature is incompatible with viable sperm production, but rather that warm body temperature is incompatible with human viable sperm production. So if you want live viable sperm in a human, then you have to keep the testes at a temperature cooler than that of normal body temperature. So each testis, then, inside the scrotum, is made up of small, coiled tubules that are called seminiferous tubules. So the sperm are made in the seminiferous tubules inside the testes. And then immature sperm, so sperm that have been made but are not yet ready. Immature sperm then pass from the seminiferous tubules into the epididymis. And there they are stored and they mature. And if they leave the epididymis, that is, if they don't simply get old and break down. And I'm going to interject here that that's what happens to most sperm. Sperm are made frequently, so they're made fresh on a routine basis. And old sperm simply break down after a while. The nutrients in them are then reabsorbed back into the body. So sperm are constantly being made and then not used and breaking down and being made and not used and breaking down. And this is just the way the body works. But if there are sperm that actually leave the epididymis, then they do so through a tube called the Vas Deferens, also called the ductus deferens. And that is why if a man decides that he does not want to have children or does not want to have more children, and he wants to get his tubes tied, the tube that is tied, or the two tubes that are tied, are the vas deferens, and that is why that procedure is called a vasectomy. So, the sperm then leave the epididymis through the vas deferens. And this tube, the two tubes known as the vas deferens, then lead upward from each testis into the lower abdomen. So the two Vas Deferens then eventually empty into the urethra. And the urethra passes through the penis to the outside of the body. But prior to the sperms entering, the urethra, the prostate gland the bulbourethral, also known as the Cowper's gland, and the seminal vesicles all secrete their fluids into the urethra. So what this is getting at is that once the sperm have been made there in the testes, they travel up into the abdomen and do kind of an odd looping pathway through the lower abdomen. And then as they go, they pass by these various glands. These glands actually contribute fluids to the sperm as the sperm pass by, so that what you wind up getting in the end is this fluid that consists of sperm plus all of these glandular secretions, and altogether that fluid becomes known as semen. So these fluids then that are contributed by these various different glands have a bunch of different uses. So they nourish the sperm and protect them from the acidity of the female reproductive tract. And the mixture of sperm and fluids is called semen. And the involuntary muscular contractions that force semen outside the body is called ejaculation. And then after ejaculation, reflex action keeps the outlet of the urinary bladder closed. So there is a while after ejaculation when urination cannot take place. I'm now going to put a diagram of this whole system on the board so you can get a better sense of it. This is strictly diagrammatic. So anyway, we start out then with the scrotum here, with the testes inside, and then the epididymis kind of on top. So here we have the scrotum. Here we have a testis. You're looking at this person at the side, so you're only seeing one. And then here we have the epididymis. So then here we have the urethra and the penis down here. I've overdrawn the urethra. But there it is there. Here is the penis. And getting back here to the epididymis, we now have the vas deferens traveling up the front of the abdomen like this. This is obviously not drawn to scale. So here then we have the Vas Deferens. And the Vas Deferens then does this peculiar turn towards the back of the body. And then it goes down. And then it does kind of a peculiar thing here, where back here, the Vas Deferens goes by the urinary bladder, which I'm just indicating with these vertical lines so you can tell it from the other things here. So here we have the urinary bladder. And of course the urinary bladder has an outlet, here it is, so that the urine can drain out. And then we wind up having the Vas Deferens then join up with the outlet from the bladder, and now we have the urethra, and this has a little gland hanging off of it here, like so. And then this, and as I said, this is not done terribly well to scale, but I can at least show you the connections. This then leads to the penile urethra there. All right, now we have another gland just in here. And this I'm going to indicate now with diagonal lines. So here we have a little gland in here. That then is the prostate gland. We also have a gland about here. So we have a gland as this passes by here. And as I said, this is strictly diagrammatic, but just to give you the idea, here we have a little gland, here we have a little gland, and so on. So then you're going to have, and let's just draw the rest of this in here, and you're going to have the rectum back here, basically. So here we then have the rectum, just to orient you, but here are the seminal vesicles. And here we have the bulbo-urethral, that is to say, also known as the Cowper's gland. So this is, as I said, very diagrammatic, but the point we have here is that you have the sperm that are made in the testes. Down here, they mature in the epididymis, and then they take this long trip up into the abdomen through the Vas Deferens. Then they go back, they pass the urinary bladder, then come down, and then the seminal vesicles dump their fluids into, along with the sperm. And then here you wind up having the vas deferens intersect with the outlet for the urinary bladder, the urethra. So here it intersects, and from now on it is the urethra, and then the bulbourethral or Cowper's glands wind up adding their fluids. The prostate gland has already added its fluids into the mix, and then at that point the semen then goes through the urethra to outside the body, and that's how it's done. That's the end of this lecture.